Steve, where should I put the easel?
Right here's fine, Jerry.
Okay.
So, good evening. Like to welcome everybody, and I think the first order of business is to request an acting chair. So I'll leave it up to you guys to.
I'm gonna nominate Jonathan Rosenblatt.
Surprise, surprise.
So I turn it over to John. then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. ERB, October 15th. First item on the agenda is Rabinowitz, 14 Gary Drive. Stream bank restoration stabilization project, and Jerry Barrett is here to present.
Good evening.
Jerry Barrett, Audrey Rabinowitz is here with us. I have a set of half-size drawings here for the table, and I also have some photographs that are on the plans that if you guys want to have a closer look. Our application fee and mailing package is here. The Rabinowitz property and the Young Quark property, the Quark property are adjacent properties directly across the street from Sabino Road on Gary Drive. And what's happening is there's about a 58-acre watershed, which I have that on this map here. For reference, this is the Chappaqua School site right here, Steve, that we've been working on. So we've calculated there's about a 58-acre watershed that's coming down. It goes down, it's piped, it gets down into Gary Drive, and it runs along the neighbors' lots, at which point it goes across the street and comes down Gary Drive. It comes out on Gary Drive, and it gets to the Quark property. And there's a catch basin in here that discharges. This is the catch basin on the side of the street. And it just blows out of that catch basin. There's a big drop in grade, and you'll see on some of the photographs, it's terribly eroded. It's all eroded. You can see the pipe, you're better up on your things, but this is the photograph, and you'll see that it's all ripped apart, it's eroded, the water is just blowing out of there. Then what happens is the water comes down, and it turns, and it gets down to the common property line between Quark and Rabinowitz, and it makes kind of like a hard left, and then continues through. But what had happened was that this area that you see in dark green is all phragmites, and it just choked this water course out to the extent that nothing could pass through it. And so what happened was it was just bubbling out every time it rained. There's a path. You'll see it on this is, I think, the photograph. It just goes right across the Rabinowitz yard because and you can't mow it, you can't walk in it. It's also eroded a channel here, whereas the path was kind of like this through there, and it's just made a mess. A lot of debris had gathered in here. So we had talked to Steve Coleman about it and asked him to meet us out there. And what we requested was, we said we're coming in with this application to restore this. It's a joint application. Both Mr. Quark and the Rabinowitzes have signed the application, and they're going to work on it together. And we've taken the frag out. 2 dumpsters, a 30 and a 40?
130, 140.
130, 140, filled up, 4 guys by hand, cut it all down, and took it out. Right now it's back, about that high?
Yeah.
This is what it looks like currently?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, now it's come back, it's about this high now.
Oh, it's already back, yeah.
So one of the things we'd like to ask for tonight is permission to bring in a licensed applicator and spray it. Because at this time, as it's sending its food supply back in, this is the time to try to get control over it. This will have to be done, I would think, for 2 or 3 years. So the idea is we've already removed the frag, that's been done. We'd like to go forward. Steve allowed us to remove it knowing that it would come back and we would be able to spray it at this time, so we kind of got to jump on it. So the frag is out of there, it's all been carted away. And so what we'd like to do then is to restore the water course, and basically we want to put the water back in the channel where it's supposed to be. So what we'd like to do is, starting on the Quark property, what we'd like to do is come into where this area is, and if you look at that photograph, you'll see it's just all blown out. So what we'll do is we'll come in here and we will excavate this out, and we will stack big boulders and we'll armor coat this whole thing, and we'll put some check dams in it to slow that
That's where-
water down.
that's where the pipe is?
That's where the pipe is coming out, and I mean, it's a mess.
Right here.
And then once we get that stabilized, what we'd like to do is armor coat with boulders this side of the water to stop the scour going on here. We'll probably put a check dam across it to slow the water down, another check dam. And then when we get down to where it makes that bend, we'd like to excavate out more of a sediment sump. So as this water comes in, we'd like it to deepen that out, let the water drop in here. We put a little boulder check dam right in here. And the idea is it would break the velocity and then fill up and then overflow back in the channel. In order to keep this thing from blowing out again, we would line this with gabions. Gabions are the rock-filled baskets, 3 feet wide, 18 inches high, 6 feet long. And you know, they basically, they come folded, you open them up, they're PVC coated so they don't rust. They open them up, the way I've seen them doing, the guys, they excavate out where they're gonna go, they put down a layer of gravel to level it out. They fill the baskets up, and then they pick them up with a machine, and they just drop them in like Legos, and they wire them together. So the idea is to put the gabion baskets here, so when this velocity does come through here, this will stay in place. And then as that fills up, it will go out and start traveling down. For the rest of it, we'll just use boulders, 2 by 2 by 2s. They machine place them to hold the edges together. We talked out there. Steve suggested that because we might get rebound, the flow's coming this way, rebound coming here, he suggested that we put some gabions in this to control the rebound coming in here. And the rest of it, I think we can just keep going with the boulders. And as we do this, when he's in there with the machine, hopefully this can be done as it starts getting colder and the ground firms up. Even though I think you could drive on it now because that Phragmites root system is made of mat that you could actually drive a machine on, I think. But we want to, reestablish that channel. Maybe it varies. It's about 3 feet wide, 5 feet wide, maybe 12 inches, 18 inches deep, and get that stabilized. Once we get control over all that, we'd like to do that this year, and then in the spring come back in and then revegetate the area, because you'll see on the before and after photographs prior to the frag, when the frag was in there, the neighbors couldn't see each other. Now, of course, it's wide open. So, they'd like to revegetate it, so we'll be putting a mixture. We haven't gotten to the point with the actual planting plan yet, but the idea is to plant some trees, major trees, minor trees, shrubs, ground covers, and wherever we took the frag out, because the frag, we took it out all the way along the backyard, it was just all over. We would seed all this with a conservation mix yet to be determined. But this area here, we would revegetate so it becomes a hedgerow again, separating the properties. While we're working to facilitate dry working conditions when we're working, what I'd like to do is I'd like to sandbag that drain on the street and let the water keep going down Gary Drive. And then we'll do another sandbag here, we'll put a pump in here, and we'll pump the flows around to a hay bale discharge pit, and then let it go. And I think between those two things, we can effectively dry that area out. And once it's dried out, I think that contractors can go in and clean it all out and reestablish the channel and get the stone lining in. And once we got that in, we could, I think we'd probably just do a seeding of winter rye for this year, just to get some quick cover up. And then we come in the spring and plant it.
What are your concerns about using the insecticides on the down?
The herbicide?
Yeah, the herbicides, excuse me, the herbicides on the down course.
It's really we've done it many times. We've, DEC has approved it on past projects. It's a product called Rodeo. I think it's a version of Roundup that's safer in a wet environment. From what I understand is once it's sprayed on, the contact period's about an hour, and then it's considered safe. So it's sprayed, and that's it. You walk away and you see it wilt down, and as it comes up again and gets to knee height, you do it again. And you have to kind of stay on top of this.
Oh, because you'll be working in a wet area, is there any concern that it's gonna travel with the water course?
Well, I don't think so, because it's, I don't think they're gonna, I think they're, well, maybe what we should do is before we spray it is de-water it and, make sure that, we got the water, you know, we can de-water it, we can put the bypass in here and we can get the pump going and we can make sure there's minimal flow in there, minimal, I mean, if anything, it'll just be groundwater, it won't be anything else. They said there's about 58 acres that comes through there, so it's not huge, but it's significant. And it's done its damage, as you can see. So, you know, it's something, I just don't think there's another solution. We've tried excavating it out. We did a project once in the excavator, he was down 10 feet with a huge excavator and he's still pulling out roots. 10 feet. And if you leave one root, it's coming back. So really unless somebody has a better idea.
Pave over it and it'll come back. So, yeah.
I think it's a combination of spraying it and keep cutting it, and the idea is to weaken the root system, weaken the root system, weaken the root system, and then once we get it to the point that it's weak enough and the, you know, the new plantings that you're gonna put in kind of, you know, hopefully take over.
Jerry, is there a lot of fill material within that you're gonna have to?
Not a lot, not a lot.
Because one thought is where you have the phragmites along the edge of the stream, you know, is maybe to cover it with a fill layer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, spray it and then cover it with a fill layer and then reseed it, because it might help smother, you know, some
Put
of
a
the,
fabric over it,
you know, maybe do a fabric.
and then cover it.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I mean, we're gonna generate some here. I don't think we're, you know, this is fairly clear in here. We're not gonna do too much on Mr. Quark's property. This really has to be reestablished because, I mean, you could walk in here now and, you know, I mean, it's like you can't, it's hard to see where it used to be. The phragmites has just like knitted the whole thing together. So, yeah, we are gonna be generating some fill. So we can certainly do that, and, I mean, it's all over the place, so.
I mean, my concern is with how thick the mat is, it's gonna be pretty difficult, I think, to get other plants to, you know, germinate and, you know, compete. You know, there's not gonna be much soil.
That's a good point. They're probably gonna have to excavate the plant pits for the tree with an excavator
Yeah.
to get them in.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, that's probably a good reuse of the material, and it saves on trucking costs to truck it away.
The other thing is, I don't know whether the town would permit you to send the drainage on the road, because there's no real defined swale. So you may need to do a diversion around to the, you know, pipe it around to the back.
Well, I mean, I know in the past sometimes in the past what we've done is, instead of relying on the pump, is, you know, putting the sandbag, and I've seen the contractors dig just a temporary ditch around it and just let it flow right around it. We could do both. We could put the ditch in as well as that, you know.
Well, if you put the ditch close enough to where you're gonna be restoring it, then, you know, that makes sense, because then you don't have to
Do it
you know,
twice.
restore more.
Yeah.
But I think you may be better off sending it, you know, through the property instead of on the road, because they may not permit that.
Well, I think we could do that because you can see this area, and I mean, this is where all the frag is. So, you know, if we go in here and we dig a trench through here, it's already where the frag is. It'll probably help us fragment the phragmites, if you will. But yeah, we could do that. That's probably a good idea. And you know, I know the contractors are always happy to have it flow by gravity rather than having to rely on a pump. But they'll put the pump in anyway, just in case. And you know, in the worst case, when you get a big storm event, and a big storm event comes, and we just got to let it go. It goes, and we got to start again, and we got to clean it out again. It's really the only way to handle it. But you know, I think what the guys would do is, you know, they'd watch for the weather. If they see a big storm coming, I think, you know, they wouldn't work that day, and they would go and they'd probably take the sandbag dam out and let it go. And then when they come back in, they'll put the sandbag dam back in and start again. You know, once they get mobilized and they get in there and their footing is good, I don't think this is going to take them very long. I think maybe 2 weeks is the max to get in there and get it all cleaned out. I mean, I think the heavy lifting is done. The frag is out. And these guys did a great job, all by hand. And they also carted away, you know, all the debris. We're talking about stumps of, what were they, blowdowns from storms? Yeah. I mean, I think they were willow trees. I mean, they had to be 36, 48-inch diameter trunks. They were huge. So they cleaned all that out too, and they took it all out. So they've really made an improvement already. It's a highly impacted area, and I think this will help both neighbors. Both neighbors were concerned with the frag just taking over their yards.
Is there any other thoughts and concerns? Seem pretty straightforward, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the only thing I would probably do is look at how to put some erosion controls in downstream
Yeah.
during the work.
How do you want us- how do you want us
either
to
like a
handle-
humidity curtain or, wire basket with hay or something,
Okay.
filter on that. And then,
Put a gabbing on it,
you could even try it,
loosely packed with stone, gabbing,
Yeah, with a filter, a fabric, probably.
with a fabric around it,
Yeah.
and on the backside. so,
Yeah, the backside.
Yeah, well, I could add that, I could add a couple of them.
That's just to prevent any sediment or anything from going downstream.
Where does this ultimately outlet?
So it goes down towards Sevens Bridges Road, I think it gets into Gidney Brook, and from Gidney Brook into the New Croton Reservoir.
Yeah,
Right?
you're more than 300 feet, I hope.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no, from where
New
weather.
York City DEP. Yeah, so I think you're okay. As far as the planting plan, I mean, from what I remember, the water table's pretty high.
Yeah.
So, the plant list is gonna need to probably be more the, obligate stuff.
I'm gonna make it, I don't think
Especially,
What do you think on
either
trees?
that or raise it goes up.
What do you think on trees? You think red maple will work?
Yeah, it's gonna be iffy,
What do you think's gonna work?
probably something like bald cypress or,
Why not?
yeah.
All right, well,
There's not too many trees that can handle that kind of,
yeah.
moisture there. I mean, it might dry out a little bit when you get everything flowing, but
Yeah.
the other thought is maybe raise it up a little bit.
All right, well, I mean, we can certainly put that planting plan together and, file it with you if you're satisfied with it, unless you think we need to come back.
What's your guys' preference?
I'm fine with.
I'm fine
I would
with
leave
it.
it to Steve's discretion as far as the planting thing goes.
that doesn't look good.
I share your concern about the herbicide with the active stream flow. I'm a little concerned about that.
What would Bill be asking?
Well, you'd ask how to filter that or how to control it, and I'm not sure how, other than maybe we wait until you can de-water,
I think that's reasonable, because once
and then spray then.
if we can get going on it sooner than later, I mean, what do you always say? You like to see the stuff at about knee height?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Audrey, how high is it now?
It's close to me.
Crazy.
Based on the weather, you probably have another 2, 3, 4 weeks before you need to hit it, and it starts reversing and putting its energy into the root system.
Okay. All right, so then I think our timing is good, as long as we can get somebody engaged and get going. I'll get the planting plan worked out for you to look at, and, we can get it out to bid and get some pricing, but I think it would be good to get it done, this part of it done before the winter sets in.
Yeah, if you can get a spray this fall yet, I think would be good. And then let it come up again in the spring, and then
Spray it again, and
we'll
then
have to see how we, deal with the dewatering.
we'll locate a licensed applicator. Doesn't Arborscape do that?
Yeah, Arborscape does have that.
Yeah, I think they did it for us, for first once for us before. I'll contact someone like them.
So, any other thoughts on the application? So put together the
Sounds good.
permit, and Jerry can, submit a plan for review.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, you wanna keep all that for your file?
Yeah, that'd be great. And then,
It really is.
when I was out there,
And
it's one of the thickest areas.
It's gonna be a job and a half.
Yeah. And I've been on sites where an excavator's gone down 10 feet, and you still find the roots, the front part.
Was that the site near Mathis Country Club you was talking about? That's what I thought.
Is this adjacent to the Zauberer property? Is that what he was
Yes.
talking about with the school
Yeah.
side?
It's down the hill a little bit. Okay. Next, we have Krawczyk and Block.
Nice, I pronounced it.
Was I close?
Yeah, I was impressed.
And with such confidence too.
I know, I was like glad you were pronouncing it.
Well,
I
I
wasn't sure.
stated it for 30 seconds before trying,
And
so.
then as soon as he said it, I was like, of course it is. Right.
You should sit closer. Oh, what it's gonna look like? Yeah, sure.
So good evening. I'm Alan Pilch.
I'm Tim Leonard, I'm the
Tim Leonard.
architect. I know you know him, probably don't know me much.
Someone knows me. So we're here on the property located at 116 Orchard Ridge Road, which is on the west side of Orchard Ridge Road. King Street is a couple hundred feet to the south. And I'll just sort of give you the bearings on the property. Orchard Ridge here, Park Lane on the south side, north being, we'll call it generally up this direction, is a paper street. There's an existing water course, discharges essentially along the west, called the southern property line of the site, and enters a 3x3 culvert to the west. And so we have both a water course and a flagged wetland, which covers, I'll say, the majority of the western portion of the property, or a good portion of the western portion of the property. And the property itself is, let me see, 34,925 square feet, which is about 0.8 acres. And there is an existing single-family house in the, called the northeastern portion of the property. It is a house which was built probably
20s,
2020.
if that?
30, 32 or 33, something like that, early
Okay.
30s.
So it's, and it's about, what was it, 1,053 square feet in footprint. And just, I'll say that from the street down to the wetland area, it's relatively steeply sloping. It's probably about a 15% grade, going from about here to about the wetland line itself. This area itself is lawn, and it's kind of woodsy from the remainder of the property. I'm sorry I didn't bring photographs to show it, but I'll say from here to the west is woods, and from here up is called the residential landscape, the so-called typical residential
I have a
landscape.
couple of smaller pictures here. This is that south side of the house. You can see the driveway comes down from the street. It's actually very steeply sloped, and there's actually a little garage. It sits around the back of the house. It's just unused. They can't manage up that driveway. But this is the lawn area Alan was talking about. This is a view standing from about right here at the edge where it kind of drops off. So this is that kind of really where the wooded area begins, pretty tight to the house actually. And this is the corner of that garage you see right here. And this is standing kind of up at this part of the property, looking back this way. And that is the wooded area we're looking at. Both of these views are of the area in front of the water course. So there's some trees and some shrubbery in through there.
I'll just say that when you look at the 100-foot setback, for the buffers from the wetlands, it covers, the 34,000 square foot property. It covers all but 1,020 square feet of the property. So virtually the entire property itself is,
The entire eastern end is
yeah,
covered.
the only part that isn't really is just along the street. You can actually see the line right here. So that's the architectural plan. I'll just go over what is being proposed. So what is being proposed is an addition on the south side of the house, and the addition has been carefully designed.
Excuse me, Alan, gentleman that came in, are you here for this application?
Yes, I am.
Do you want to come up so you can see the plan?
I'm getting enough of it, and I've seen the photos.
It's family.
Okay, I just wanted to
But
make sure.
yeah, it's a shame
the opportunity.
everything's turned around here, but okay. Thank you.
Do you want us to put it over there?
No, it's okay. No, I don't mind standing in the back if you don't mind.
No.
No,
That's
fine.
You wanna come this way?
Too, yeah, appreciate it.
Okay. There is an existing driveway on the property, which and I'll just say essentially is located to the west, or to the south of the existing house. And there's a small one-car garage space. Oh, there,
actually
yes,
back.
correct, sorry.
I highlighted
Here.
the driveway in this green highlighter right here, so you can see it over, or kind of underlaid below where the proposed footprint of the house is gonna be.
And so what is being proposed is that the house addition is essentially on the footprint of the existing asphalt driveway. And what is also being proposed is a new one-car garage, a new driveway to allow parking, which currently occurs on the street because the existing driveway is so steep coming down that I don't think the feel safe doing it.
We
It's
bottomed up,
very
we're
tight.
trying to go down there, so we
And
stopped.
so it's rather uncomfortable to do that.
So it just takes some minor regrading to get a fairly level, well, sloped down, but reasonable driveway, well within the town code requirements for slope.
And also, what is being proposed too is that, the family would like very much to have, I'll call it an area where their children, okay, that's less steeply sloping, which currently is like about 15% grade from, say from just off the road to the wooded line is about 50% grade, to have a less steeply sloping area where their children can play, because there is no space at all on this entire property in which to, have that. So what also being proposed is a couple of retaining walls, each one about 4 feet in height. Generally ranges from 2 to 4 feet in height, which would be placed here and on the south side and on the western side. So the grade actually would step up from here to there, and there to here. It's about, this is 10 scale, so it's about 40 feet away from the actual wetland boundary. And so that is being proposed as well in order to provide this play area. In addition, we're proposing to, I'll say extend this wall to the rear of the house in order so that there's some access to the rear of the house. Right now, it's, when you get off the back of the house, it's very steeply sloping immediately, right down to the wetland area. It probably drops, 10, 12 feet at least. It's a very fast drop. So at least have an area where one can at least walk to the rear of the house as well.
Also a 4-foot retaining wall then?
Yes, that is correct. It's about 4 feet. 425, about, generally about 4 feet, 4.5 feet.
So it's still gonna be pretty steeply sloped even with the retaining wall?
Yes, it's only 12 feet off the back of the house.
Yeah.
It's a retaining wall.
But would you have a flat area, or would it still be?
It's
sloped?
relatively flat back here. That's correct. The idea is to create, basically a half a foot of grade change inside of that 12 feet, and afterwards it just drops, and that's it. I'll just say in addition for stormwater management and water quality considerations, there are 2 stormwater practices that are being proposed, one of which is some subsurface chambers to take runoff from I'll say the majority of the house in the driveway and convey that to a level spreader, which will then discharge to the water course. And also from the very rear of the house, so the new addition is to convey that runoff into a rain garden, which will then overflow into the wetland. And we've done the calculations for it, we haven't submitted it yet. We've done calculations showing it provides capture of the water quality volume and peak rate attenuation for the 1 through 100 year storms. We also did provide an erosion sediment control plan and details of it as well. We also, just say, obviously you see there's a deck being proposed here as well, and a walkway to the deck and to a new.
The deck would not be an impervious surface, so we
Correct.
leave that open and gravel below, no roof or anything over the
Correct.
deck.
So the deck would be raised, it would be above ground?
That's
It'd be on the
correct.
first floor.
It would be right here at this hatch section. You have the regraded area that provides somewhat leveler side with the 2 retaining walls coming down, so we can have a door access to the basement, which is completely out of the ground already. But the deck would be above that, and we wouldn't close that off with anything.
Actually, the deck would be an elevation. Here, the finished floor of the house is around 439, and the deck would be just below that, around 439, and below that it's like 8 feet below.
So
So
just planting sonotubes? in the
Yes,
front?
just sonotubes, yep. 3 piers ought to do it.
And so that's essentially what's being proposed. There's no, direct wetland impacts, there's no impacting of the water course at all. The only thing that's being impacted primarily is the existing lawn area here. There's kind of an open area in the woods that surrounds, it's behind the house, where the rain garden will be located, so it doesn't look like there's any trees. There's just this nice open flat area that's in back there. So that's part of the proposal as well. And this would just be located into the lawn area itself.
There was also some discussion about doing some cleanups of some of the invasives that are along that, the water course in there. Yeah.
So the entire addition is on the existing impervious areas now?
For the most part, we're actually, on this side, that structure that's there that currently has a family room and a garage is gonna be taken out. So we're gonna pick up the square footage there to kind of offset this area right here is about the only area that is currently uncovered. So we thought that was a swap in square footage.
And then the I see outside is just the deck, which is on piers.
This, yes,
Correct.
1, 2, 3 piers.
And you've got the new driveway, will that be on top of the old driveway?
Pretty much
Yes.
in a similar location, yeah. Because the new driveway where the garage is right here, and the driveway literally comes right along that side, so it's very, very close.
So will there be any net gain of impervious surface or no?
There is some
I
additional
think some,
new impervious surface.
maybe between walkways and a couple of square feet in the house compared to the driveway, but it's not significant.
You haven't calculated it though?
I actually have calculated, I'm sorry I don't have the number with me on my hand right now, but we did calculate that. Because that's how we determined that, that's how
We're actually-
the stormwater management plan was actually designed for.
Because right now, there's all the stormwater from the house is just
Just
running
goes-
off. No storm, no dry wells, no nothing. At least we're capturing the entire house now, where we're not really required to based on 1,000 square foot rule or
Right now,
something.
just discharges the grade.
So it's being, the stormwater is being divided between a level spreader and a rain garden?
Well, what happens is,
Underground storage,
yeah,
context.
just the rear part of
That's
the
what's
house
there in
here
the-
goes to
That's
the
what
rain
they're planning.
garden, and the rest of it, including the driveway, will all go to the subsurface chambers, which will provide most of the peak rate attenuation and provide the water quality, volume, capture and treating, and then we'll discharge via level spread, any overflow.
I see.
And the reason for the two is that because the grade does drop off and I need roof leaders in the back part of the house, by the time the water gets down to the ground, we're not gonna
can't
pump
get
it back up.
to the-
And we don't want another stormwater near the
Right.
wetland, so we thought this was kind of a nice combination
And
solution.
the rain garden's, it's roughly about 25 by 12 by 6 inches deep. That's all it is. It's a very shallow excavation if you plant it.
Is there any value, Alan, in taking the overflow from the Caltex and directing it into the rain garden instead of a level spreader? Or is it too much volume?
I think it's too much volume. It sort of takes, let's say, flows that have already been treated and puts it into, I'll say a practice that is really there to capture water quality volume just from the rear of the house. That's why they're sort of separated. I mean, the water that goes into the wetland probably gets into the culvert anyway, so. And there'll be, and really this wetland area is really, it's not sustained so much by the flows from this house. It really is the fact that it's at the bottom of a steep hill and the groundwater table just, it's a classic slope wetland where the groundwater table just approaches the ground surface, just because it's getting closer to the bottom of the hill. That's really what's happening here.
And how are you gonna improve the slope of the driveway if it's going on the existing driveway path to the house?
Well, essentially, it just gets, I'll use the term lifted. Instead of coming down at this very steep grade,
The area that's
drops.
closest to the house actually has a small retaining wall there already, so
You've also shortened the driveway considerably. The driveway is much
Right.
shorter than the existing.
Well, it's
driveway.
flush with the front of the house, so if you can
That's
see
right.
from here,
Instead of going
that's not,
around.
Now it
back.
goes
this is
down
not
and
much of a
around.
slope now as it is, but there is a little wall over right along here that makes it so
I
it
see,
is
so
more level.
the slopier part of the driveway
Exactly.
is beyond.
It's beyond the
I see.
driveway,
I see,
yes.
that makes sense,
So
okay.
the driveway will essentially be this long instead of extending to the rear of the house, you know? If I'm just looking at the existing condition, the new addition essentially is equal in setback from Orchard Ridge
Right,
Road,
but
so it's really.
what I'm
not
saying is the
there.
part where you're bottoming out is not in that
That's
piece
correct.
between the house
Correct.
and the road, it's in that piece in back that's now gonna be
Right.
part of the addition, okay?
I met at the site with both Tim and Alan, and, you know, their plans were much more grandiose, in the beginning because, you know, of the desires for the homeowner, you know, and because of the site limitations, you know, that are present. I think they've done a really good job of trying to still,
Yeah, we had to have a balance of getting enough house to make it worth it. Very important was the outdoor space for the kids. And the other thing was this driveway. We actually started with a project 4 years ago where we had a much more aggressive driveway because we were gonna still park underneath the house to not make such a big addition. So we gave up on a 2-car garage, we gave up on a massive driveway work that was kinda just over the top to settle in to a 1-car garage at level up here and keep as much green that way as possible and minimize the driveway. But at least they'll be able to park both cars off the road.
Which presently are parked in like,
right,
right in the right of way of the street. because
Last winter, one of their cars was hit by the town
Oh,
snowplow.
I thought surprised me.
And then the snowplow driver got out of the truck and told them that they hit the car.
But the town doesn't
But
cover
the
it.
town is no liability for damaging your car with their snowplow, so
they
they
tell
had
you-
to take care of the
They
damage
gave you
on
a
their
bill
own.
for the
only
damage to
state
So
the
first they were so excited that the guy actually told them, and then they found out they still gotta pay for it.
That's why I told them.
At least you didn't have to pay to fix the truck.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true too, that's true.
Can I ask a question? I'm the property that's right beneath them
Yes.
on Castle. So mine, I guess, would be receiving all the benefit of the problems with the drainage that we're currently
Right.
encountering. And I just wanna understand how this design is going to improve the drainage going down, because it sounds to me like you're gonna raise a portion of their property outside of
Right.
their house to create a yard, which might in essence create a steeper slope because towards the back, and is that gonna be an issue for me? I mean, I have a finished basement, it's dry, we have a lot of surface water, but I don't wanna be in a situation where I'm gonna be dealing with a flooded basement now, because it sounds to me like the slope may be potentially steeper because you're pulling out.
There is no change in grade or anything from, you know, the retaining wall here or the retaining wall there to the rear, to the property line to your residence on Castle. There's no change at all. And so I'll say the change will only be essentially from the rear of the house forward.
And what we're doing is taking a slope that does this and doing this. And then there's a wall,
And then-
then another wall, making like a terraced grade so that, you know, when water hits a slope like this, it travels fast.
Right.
When you do this, it really doesn't as much. And the other thing we're doing is capturing all the water off the roof and the driveway. Anything that hits a solid surface is being captured and put in these underground containment things. You never see them, but they're big giant units that sit underground, and they allow water to come out slowly if it does fill up and overflow. And that's what Alan's describing in that area over here, where it's gonna come out, hit some rocks, and eventually make its way back down, if it even gets to that point.
Okay, and if it does, is it gonna go into that culvert that's in between the two properties? Okay.
But right now, there's nothing, you
There's
said
no-
that
There's
there's nothing right now.
There's
nothing.
nothing.
So you guys get a lot
Just
of water
sign-
right now,
yeah,
I'm guessing.
In the yard, yeah.
that
So-
should
Yeah.
result in.
So theoretically, yeah, it should
That's right.
create less water for you with the
Right.
collection things.
Right.
Whatever's coming
You're
out.
welcome.
It'll slow down. I talked to Samantha, and I said, but how does it actually have, you know, their tanks, they hold the water, eventually the water's gotta come out, where does it go? And she said, go to the meeting and ask them, because I don't know, so that's.
Most of the water is supposed to seep back into the ground. There's a ton of gravel that gets put in there that allows the water to gradually and slowly steep into the ground naturally.
Okay.
That's the purpose of Alan designing the size. There's stormwater calculations and all kinds of engineering that goes into that. But if we get 6 inches of rain in 3 hours one day, that might fill up temporarily and overflow and spill out slowly into that rock area he's talking about. Okay.
Your design is for 100 year? So they're designing it for what's considered the standard by New York State and the
I'll
town?
be long gone.
No, we get 100-year storms every
100
year.
years.
Yeah, that's
Summer,
right.
my goodness.
Yeah, that's true.
If your basement stood the test of this summer, then you're
It
good.
actually did, and so I'm thinking it's just gonna get better, but I need to
Why not,
understand what
yeah,
the
go.
plan is.
Yeah.
You okay with this stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things we always look at, Alan and Tim too, is, any footprint increase. We like to see mitigation, on a one-for-one basis, so, I mean, because you're using existing asphalt areas and that, to me, that's kind of a wash.
wash,
So I think it's only just whatever additional new, disturbances proposed, that you should look at maybe what you could do just in terms of some mitigation. And it may make sense, from what I remember, the wetland is, some general cleanup of some of the invasives and
Do some additional planting.
and then maybe some additional spot planting of shrubs or,
Sure.
Some trees if there's some openings,
Oh, there are some openings
Yeah.
back there.
So if you wanna just calculate the square footage that would come up.
And you had mentioned wanting to remove some invasives along the water course, right?
There's some along here, especially.
You understand what that means, mitigation and that?
I mean, I think even we talked to my father there, I think we wanted to even plant some trees along there and rip out some of the invasive stuff anyway, if we
Okay,
could do it, so.
Yeah, so
That's
you
all
can do
part of
that
what
under
we'd
the
like to do.
guise of the mitigation.
Yeah, yeah, that would actually work right into what we'd love to do anyway,
Sure.
so.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Then we can also provide, we do have a list of potential plants will be in the rain garden, we can also put show a planting plan for that as well. And that will not be included as part of the mitigation, that's quite separate, but we're well aware of that.
With the rain gardens, Alan, I usually prefer live plugs instead of seed mixes.
Oh, I prefer shrubs, to tell you the truth.
Well, you can do, that's even better.
I think it's much better to have shrubs.
That's even better, so,
than
yeah.
than seed mixes, because that just turns
Okay.
into a weed. Mess. That's all it becomes.
Yeah.
Much
Okay,
better to be
good.
shrubs.
Yeah, so I think I just wanna see, the
show the
proposed mitigation and
We'll show the
wanna
calculations, show the
just even a narrative and just, what you're gonna do and then plant list and,
Sure. Do you want to see specific locations where things are just?
Yeah, I think just, you can do general, I'm not as concerned, it's such a small piece of property, so,
That's fine.
any other questions you guys have?
Probably confirm the no net new impervious.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
he
just,
said there is some.
There is some.
Oh, just what it is,
Figure
the
it
number.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Well, because in part that'll inform
We'll do the
exactly how much mitigation we
Exactly,
need.
exactly.
what I would do is make the permit subject to review by the town engineer and, Alan works with him and,
Sounds great.
we would just review the
Yeah, that has to be on the
calculations.
building department application anyway.
Right, yeah, because this is,
Is there any
what's
maintenance?
your total, actually, that's a good question, I guess that would be considered new, are you over 1,000 or square feet?
Not if you count the driveway.
No, because, I think
Not
the
at all.
driveway, is the driveway included in that, Alan, when you do your coverage cups? I think they are, it is, right?
When it comes to lot coverage, yeah.
Yeah. lot coverage,
absolutely.
but, yeah. So you're fine with that, and as far as lot coverage, right?
What are you thinking?
Hmm?
Oh, you're thinking of the 1,000 square feet of,
Yeah, 1,000 square
mean, the-
feet of new impervious, but you
The
don't have.
proposed first floor is only 493 square feet, plus we're taking out this section, so you may be 450 feet, 440 feet.
Yeah, so you're fine, yeah,
Yeah,
because it's,
This is
you're
more-
over 1,000, you just have to comply with 108, but you are anyway. Yeah.
How do we handle maintenance on a rain garden?
Well, what we can do is, traditionally, we do a 5-year monitoring and maintenance for mitigation and stormwater. Usually for larger projects, we don't typically do it for the smaller ones, but we could put a provision like that, that it has to be maintained, for, the 5-year period.
I think the homeowner wanna maintain it anyways.
Yeah, it's to their benefit,
I
it's to
think
their
they're looking,
benefit.
I think they're looking to have a pleasant landscape to look at.
It's an aesthetic plus.
Right.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
like a
mean,
nice project.
ideally what you want is it to look like a nice landscape that functions also as.
Absolutely, I mean, the kids are at the age now where I think it'd be great for them to be out there with that. We'd love it.
It is close enough to the yard where you're gonna see this area, the
Exactly.
rain garden. We did one in Mount Pleasant, it's right in their front yard, it looks beautiful, actually, it's one of the best parts of their front yard.
Yeah, you showed what some of them look like,
So,
so,
yeah.
absolutely.
Actually, I'll say the one at
Yeah,
on
there's
Meadowville,
probably,
by retention, which is similar, also turned out pretty well.
you probably do have a deer issue there, so that
Right.
you might have to do some temporary fencing or spraying.
I got my fence guy.
And just temporarily, because a lot of times it takes 2 or 3 years for the plants to get acclimated and withstand the browsing that occurs.
Got it.
Okay, are you guys comfortable approving it subject to a mitigation plan?
Yeah.
Or?
I am.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic, thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Super,
Yeah.
thanks for hearing us.
so,
appreciate
just so whenever you,
Yep.
the conditions will be, you've got all the details, just do the planting plan and
Right.
narrative, and then, you just have to satisfy Bob with the
Yes,
stormwater calcs.
yes, I'm well aware of it.
And then, we'll issue the permit, and then, it's just a matter of getting building permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a couple other steps to go in between,
Right.
zoning board, ARB,
Yeah,
shouldn't be
Right.
too bad.
Right, in the meantime, while you do that, I can
Yes, yes,
So, Tim,
it's all on me now.
all right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for walking.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, no, thanks. I'm not understanding what she said. Oh.
Well, you're behind us, so I can. Hey guys, have a good one. Your time. Yeah, thanks.
Sorry.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Sorry, we do like an introduction. For everyone, it's just like going right into it.
Absolutely.
Alright.
She's been fine.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Our kids are.
What a long road.
last item was adjourned at the request.
Yeah.
They would like to reschedule, and they wanted to find out if you guys would be willing to meet in a couple of weeks.
Yes, yes.
Supplemental, eh?
Or
For this application,
what's the urgency?
but,
And who was asking now?
Well, that's what they're saying, they're gonna
Right.
pull out
The
those
cleanup.
vines.
Exactly, so.
Because they're buying this property from
Catch
the
all
town?
that
but
water.
I think I prefer.
Yeah.
Thank you, no, I'm not an engineer,
Want
so
to
it
close or
was kind of
something?
like I said, I asked her this, she's like,
Yeah, why don't we,
But you know what, it's gonna, I think.
Everything
this
else
physical
is
data
adjourned,
is
so
gonna
do we have a
actually be your
motion to
yard,
adjourn the
back
meeting?
end of the property. I actually think it'll be better for your
all in
yard.
favor?
Aye.
So we're adjourned.
You know, this actually